Hi everyone, Crista Cowan here with another episode of the Barefoot Genealogist. Today we are talking about custom facts in Family Tree Maker 2012. It's going to be a really short and to the point presentation, but this is something that I get a lot of questions about. People who want to be able to record specific information about their ancestors, hair color, eye color, height, weight, military service, alternate names, any number of things. And so we're just going to talk about where you're going to find those facts and how you can add new ones for yourself, and then maybe just briefly touch on some ways that we can manage those facts. As always, if you have, not as always, the last couple of presentations I have had to pre-record because of my travel schedule, but today, if you are watching this live, I will be available on chat immediately following the presentation. So if you have additional questions about this topic, feel free to stick around and ask those questions when I get back online on the chat. If you are watching an archived version of this on YouTube, please just leave a comment. We do monitor those and we'll respond as necessary. So let's go ahead and dive into today's presentation about custom facts in Family Tree Maker 2012. One of the first things that is useful for you to know is that their facts are either individual or shared, so that the way the facts are assigned, they are either about a specific person or they are about a couple. Now, there are already a lot of facts available, and we're going to take a look at a few of those here in just a minute. But when you're looking at those facts, pay attention to that concept of whether they're individual or whether they are shared facts. Let me pop over here to my Family Tree Maker 2012. Now, hopefully you know how to make your video window go full screen. If you're watching this on live stream, just hover over the center of the window there. There should be a view in full screen or button to click. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's going to be in the bottom right-hand corner of your video player to make it full screen. Even with it full screen, you may not be able to read all of the details of what's going on in my tree. But what I'm hoping to help you understand as we look at this stuff today is where to find the information about facts. So I'm going to go to the person page for this third great grandmother of mine, and you're going to see here on this person page for her, I'm on the facts tab, and here I have individual facts, and then down here I have shared facts with her husband. If she had other husbands, you would see shared facts with additional people listed in this window. Now, of course, I just have my basic, birth facts, residence facts that are created when I do attached censuses, death and burial information. And you'll notice anytime I click on one of these, it actually changes what's in the window over here on the right, because that's where I can edit the information about that particular fact. In this case, it's the birth, and I can edit the date or I can edit the location. Here are the sources that I have attached to that particular fact. I can come in here under options, and I can actually mark any fact as private. So what that means is that when I go to sync it with my online tree, even though my tree is public, I can mark specific facts about a person as private if I don't, for some reason, want to share that with everyone. You'll also see I have information here about fact properties and fact options. So let's just take a quick look at that. Fact properties determine what is displayed when you are looking at the information about that fact. So it'll tell you whether it's an individual or a shared fact. In this case, birth is clearly an individual fact. It'll tell you what you can add to that. So in this case, you'll see I just have these two lines, a date and a place, because that's all that I have said I want to see is a date and a place. I can change that to be a date, a place, and a description. So then you'll see here it adds an additional line where I could add information like the name of the hospital if I doubt she was born in a hospital in 1801. But as I add information about other people in my tree, maybe it's information about a hospital. Maybe I want to add a description about maybe I know the name of the midwife, or that she was born at home, or who was in attendance at that event, or any kind of descriptive text you want to write, you can write it there in that field. So I choose just to keep my facts as date and place, because if you've spent time with me, you know I use the notes feature very heavily because I feel like it gives me a single continuous narrative about my person as opposed to having disparate narratives in my individual facts. But you need to figure out what works for you, how you do that. I also have the option here to make my fact private by default. I probably don't want to do that with the birth fact, but maybe there are some other facts that I include that I might want to. Just every time I add that fact for a person, it's automatically private unless I say I want to make it public, as opposed to having to come here and privatize it for every person. So just keep that in mind. You have those options for any fact. Now, you're going to see some other stuff down here. There's this fact sentence, and basically what that means is when you create a report or a book or any kind of a narrative based on the data that you have in your family tree, this is going to be the sentence structure, essentially, meaning it's going to take the name of the person and their birth date and the birthplace, and this is how it's going to write the sentence. And then it gives you an example just in case you want to see how that's going to look. So that's just some things that you have control over no matter where that fact was created, whether it's a default fact like a birth, marriage, or death, or whether it's a custom fact that you create. And then I have, so that was fact properties. Then I have fact data options, and that becomes a little trickier. So just know we're going to talk about this in just a minute. I just wanted to show you that it is there available under options as well. So I have my facts, I have the details about those facts over here, and then I have my fact properties that I can adjust based on my preferences for how I like to view and work with those facts. Now, there's this little plus sign up here. It's the Add a Fact button. And if you click the little down arrow, what you're going to see are just the basic facts. In this case, it's birth and death, which are individual facts, and marriage, which is a shared fact. However, if you actually click the plus button, it's going to bring up an add a fact box. And I wish I could make this bigger. I mean, I can make it bigger, but I don't know that it's going to make the text any bigger so that you could see it. But hopefully you'll go take some time to explore on your own in this box. First, I just want to point out there's this type, and I can skim down this list. This list is alphabetical, and every once in a while you'll see a shared fact, like an annulment or a notation that these people are currently spouses, divorce information when they filed for divorce. You can enter an engagement date and details, a GEDCOM ID, a marriage ban, a marriage contract. Like all of these are the shared facts, marriage license, marriage settlement. This is interesting to me just because there are sometimes people who apply for a marriage license and then never get married. Or they might apply for a marriage license 2 or 3 times before they actually get married. I've seen instances of that. And so just as a genealogical note, you might want to put in the marriage license date because you might not have the marriage date for whatever reason. It helps you keep those facts separate. That's also a caution to some of you to pay attention to the document you're looking at. Is what you're looking at a marriage certificate or a marriage record, or is it a marriage license? Because they're different things. Anyway, so as you go through, you can start to see some of these shared facts that show up, okay? The majority of the rest of the facts, of course, are individual facts. And there are dozens of default facts in here already. Information about address and adoption, information about also known as or an AKA for alternate names that you might need to search on. Information about baptisms and bar mitzvahs and blessings and christenings and burials. And I mean, anything you could possibly think of, there's probably going to be a fact that is going to connect to that. And so my caution to you is just make sure you become familiar with the list of facts already available, because you don't want to be going in and creating duplicate facts for information that already exists. So become really, really familiar with that list of what's already available. Now, you can add facts. If you find that there's something that's not in here that you're expecting, then you can add that information. So you see here we have height, and we have, I think we have weight down here. But one of the things that I notice is missing, we have a physical description field, but maybe I want to get a little more specific. Maybe I want to record eye color or hair color. Now, for some people, that might just be a curiosity, but a lot of you know that that information is actually recorded on a World War I draft card. Sometimes it's recorded in military service records or pension files, and that sometimes can help you separate people of the same name when you realize, you know what, this guy was 5'4" and had green eyes, and this guy is 5'10" and has brown eyes. Even though they have the same name, maybe even about the same birth date and place, they are probably very different people. And so some of those little facts make a difference in making sure that we're tracing the correct family. So I can come in here on this Add a Fact page, and I can click New. And so I'm going to create a new fact here, and it's going to be eye color. Okay. Now you'll notice I started typing this fact label in here about what the fact is going to be called, and it automatically created what we call a short label and an abbreviation. I can edit those if I want, but usually I just leave them as they are. There are ways in which I see that information show up other places in the software where there's not room to fit the full name of that or the full label of that fact. I can then set whether this is an individual fact or a shared fact. In this case, of course, eye color is going to be an individual fact. Then I need to decide what I want, what kind of data I'm going to be collecting. Eye color is not about a date and a place. It's about a description. And so I'm going to check this box that says description only. And then I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And now what you're going to see is it's going to create this new custom fact that shows up in my list here as eye color. Okay, and that's important because I can now record that information about my person. I can also, let's flip back over here, I can also start to filter on some of those facts. Now, again, this may seem like just a curiosity to some of you, but I bet some of you are already, your brains are already working about all the possible ways you could use some of these things. So, for example, I have a very large branch of my family where I've done a lot of descendancy research, and one of the things that we started to notice was that it seemed like an unusually high number of people in this branch of the family have red hair. And so we started recording that fact. And I can actually go in then and search on everybody who fits that particular fact to be able to find some patterns in what I'm doing. I can filter on any fact, right? I could filter on, all people born within a certain year range or in a certain location. All of those are just facts. And then I can work with that group of people. One of my favorite uses of that is to be able to determine who might have been eligible for a particular military service. So when I click on this filter, it allows me to filter on any fact. I can just click on this all facts, and I can select from this list, cause of death, who in my tree died of a particular ailment or illness, and how common is that. I can filter on, let's see what else. I can filter on some DNA information if I have been recording that. I can filter on immigration information. Like anything I've entered and that I've recorded as a fact for people, I can then filter to say, show me only those people who fit that criteria or who fall within a certain range of birth years or who are born in a particular state or country. It kind of helps focus me on specific areas and places to research. And then, like I said, it's also a little bit of that curiosity factor. When I start to see patterns in families, I start to record those things. So that's how I use those filters, and they're a huge, huge benefit to me. If you haven't played around with those, I would encourage you to do that. Now let's step back up to this manage facts thing, and that's, I think, where we're going to end today. You do have the ability to manage a couple of things about your facts. First, you can I don't know how often you come to this person tab. I find I don't do a lot of work on this page. I do most of my work from the family tab, because as I move up and down my tree, it just changes the name of the person over here in this right-hand panel, and so I can work with all of their information. Now you'll notice here I've got birth, death, and marriage information about John, but I can actually customize that view and add any one of these facts into that list. So for example, say I want to add information specifically about their burial. I can say, okay, well, I'm going to include the burial fact as well. I want to see that just right here in this view. I'm going to include information about the DNA connection. So one of the things I've been doing is making a notation on common ancestors that that this person is a common ancestor to one of my other DNA matches, so that I can start to filter down to who I have DNA connections to and who I don't. One of the other custom facts I've entered here is I've entered a Facebook ID. I do a lot of descendancy research. I connect with a lot of living cousins, many of whom do not have a big interest in family history, and so they're not on Ancestry.com, but they are on Facebook, and so I can reach out to them to get additional information or to share information with them. And so I just copy and paste the URL of their Facebook profile in here. Lots of different things that I could put here, but basically what happens then is when I've added those facts into my view, you'll see now they show up over here in this right-hand panel. So technically, I don't really have to ever go over here to this person tab. Like I said, I can do a lot of that work right here in this family view. So that's the Customize View button down here at the bottom. The other place I can manage some of those facts is under Edit, and I can click on Manage Facts. And what that allows me to do, here's that Data Options button that comes up again. So I can take, for example, you may have noticed I actually have burial in here twice. Once, and I'm not sure how it got duplicated. It could have been any number of things, an import of data, something, I mean, who knows how that happened. But what I can do here is I can click on burial and I can click Data Options, and it will show me everybody that has got something attached to that fact. So you can see here, for example, I only have 3 people attached to this one instance of this burial fact. And so I can say, you know what, I want to change every one of those to this other burial fact here. And I'm going to click OK, and it's going to change the fact of those 3 people. And then I can click on this. That's going to take it a second here. Then I can just double check that it actually did what I asked it to do. And then let's do that. Double check that it did what I asked it to do. So now what we're going to see is that there are no facts, if this worked correctly. We're going to see that there are no facts attached, no people attached to this specific fact. And so I can then delete it. So now I've deleted this duplicate fact because I moved all of them to the singular one. So it's a way to merge duplicate facts. It's also a way to just see at a glance who's attached to a specific fact and what information is attached to it. So again, just spend some time with it, get familiar with how to do that. One of the things that I've discovered is that sometimes it just takes a little bit of playing around with things to figure out how they work and to look at them and to think through reasons why I might possibly want to use them. Those custom facts, I've shared a few of the reasons why I use them with you. I'm sure you have a lot of other ideas. If you're watching this on YouTube, I would encourage you to maybe share some of the reasons why you use custom facts, or even just some of the facts that are already available that people might not use as readily. Share some of your reasoning behind why you use some of those facts in the comments. I would love to read through them. I'm sure your ideas will help spur the ideas of others and vice versa. So hopefully that will be a helpful thing for you. That's all I have prepared for you today. As I mentioned, if you're watching this live, I will be available on chat immediately following the presentation to answer any questions you may have about this topic. And if you're watching this on YouTube, just leave a comment and we will review those and reply as necessary. You can check our full schedule of events for the rest of the month of June on our Facebook page and watch any past presentations you may have missed. We are all caught up on our archives, so all of the past presentations have been archived and are on our YouTube channel there at the URL on your screen. Until next time, this is Crista Cowan. Have fun climbing your family tree.